Welcome to the Chaotic Tabletop.
Hello, and welcome to the first of what I'd like to call Tabletop, where we talk about all things Warhammer related. Today I'm joined by a fish, more importantly, a trout. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Feeling fresh.
Feeling like a fresh fish?
That's the reference.
Well, let's get started with the hot topic at hand, World Eaters. So, with all the current leaks out there for the World Eaters, have you run any playtesting of your own?
Have um, done a couple matches against Space Wolves, Tyranids, and some Sisters.
How did you fare against those opponents?
It's a complex question. So the people, two of those people are very, very good players, and good enough that one of them I've beaten rarely, and the other I've beaten regularly, but is still a very good player. They've both been playing since like fifth edition or something, and are tournament goers and have more ITC points than I do.
Pretty much seasoned vets.
Yeah, I mean they're good. They'll finish sometimes top tables at tournaments, right?
Oh man.
So they're good. And then the sisters player is someone who is not quite as experienced in the scene, but is passionate, and that's what matters, you know.
As long as they're having fun.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, I mean, how it went was that they were test games very purely, so I learned a lot through them. I also got to watch a test game between another member of the World Leaders Discord and a even better Tyranid player, and we learned a lot from that game as well. It was violently educational, is the way that you could put it.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah,
Well, so far in my own testing, I discovered that World Eaters are pretty much a very heavy hitting secondary objective army. Could you agree with that?
yeah, 100%. I would say that is one of our three main competitive advantages. Is even in the biggest loss game that I saw, which was that last one, there was still the primary score for the World Eaters was still like 15-10-8 or something like that. And being able to get completely destroyed on the tabletop and still get at least 15 on a secondary is amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you win, but it means you have a high point loss, you know.
So yeah, with current Chaos Space Marines World Eaters, I've been having issues with secondaries, but with running the playtest secondary objectives, I've usually averaged around 25 to the max secondary objective points. So I've found that it's a lot more versatile for the way that World Eaters will end up playing out, but still having to designate units in your army to be primary holders is kind of a thing we have to work around.
Yeah, 100%. So that sort of connects to one of the main things that we discovered during the testing is exactly what you just said. Primary objective holding. We don't have much durability. We're debatably the defensively weakest form of Marine, right? We are no more. We don't get storm shields, so you can't get +1 save. You can't
Right.
get a one up in cover, right?
And no more AOC.
No more AOC, so you're sitting with a 3 up armor on a 2 wound T4 body, unless you're running Terminators, which might have some merit there, just to plop them in the middle, get that +1 for being in cover. So you're sitting with a 1 up base save. With 3 wounds, there might be some play there. I'm not sure, and I know that there are probably some people who read the rules out there thinking, oh, I don't need durability, right? I just want to get my tithe points, and haha, if they kill me off an objective, it's just giving me secondary points. And
Yep.
again, like we just said, secondary points are not going to be a problem. You don't need to trick your opponent into killing you to get secondary points. You're gonna max out at least one of these secondaries, and you're gonna do well in many of the other ones. parking something like a spawn on an objective is an interesting way to go about holding it. They're squishy, so they'll die if they get looked at. Yeah, that gives you at least 1 point for bathing the objective in blood, plus a blood tithe point, which could translate into 2 VP. But then you're not holding that objective,
Right.
right? So if it's better for the opponent to kill it, they'll kill it. If it's better to not kill it, they won't. They'll just take it. They'll tow in with like 2 models or something. So yeah, that holding the primary is a big technical skill thing that we're gonna have to figure out how to solve.
Couldn't you just put Lord of Wars on primaries?
Like a Kaitan Ravager or a Lord of Skulls.
Yeah, that primary would be fine after that.
Yeah, I mean, if armies couldn't just one round those things, absolutely. And if it wasn't also taking at least 400 points, absolutely. I mean, in some games, let's treat that seriously, right? So in some games it'll work fine. You'll encounter an army that isn't going to be able just to solo that in one go. New Tyranids are going to have a hard time with that. Maybe some flavor of Marines will, but we're talking about a meta with Plasma Scepters
Right.
doing whatever they want to do, where Death Watch can take any combination of gear at basically no cost. It's going to be very easy for most armies you fight to one shot, or if not to 2 round a Lord of War.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like the data slate changes gave way more favor towards the loyalist instead of chaos. It's not even 50-50. It's more loyalist than it is chaos. I mean, everyone lost armor and content, no doubt, but still the buffs that they gave to the loyalist versus the buffs and nerfs that they gave to chaos is so much different.
yeah, 100%. And if you're a Chaos player out there, I'm sure Chaos will do well in many ways. I'm not trying to despair too hard, but yeah, it's going to be rough. Um,
It'll be rough for any Space Marine faction that isn't Death Watch or
yeah,
Iron Hands,
yeah, and you
maybe
know,
Custodes.
maybe. But yeah, so like an example for Lord of Wars, you're gonna plenty of loyalists are gonna be taking Helverns, right? So 3 hunters of these Helverns should average like 13 damage or something on a Lord of Skulls in one round. Which isn't enough to kill it, but over 2, then he's gone, and you've lost that many points of your army. And so yeah, it's the data slate's gonna be hard. My honest take is to not sweat it too much, to recall that the balance team, whether or not you like the balance changes that they make, have been pretty responsive to the meta. Taken longer than maybe some people wanted for their armies, but overall, at least once a quarter, there's a pretty uh, impactful update for some folks. So if they see that Chaos is really slipping and Marines are dominating, it'll be 4 months or so of that, and then we'll hopefully get a correction.
Or 10th edition.
In this case, 10th edition would probably serve as that correction. Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I mean, there is lots to talk about with the World Eaters specifically. Primary, we sort of touched on. Another element is that, okay, so sorry, sticking power. Yeah, that's one of the huge things. How do you stick on primary? If you're parking jackals there, they die to a stiff breeze. Spawn are maybe easier to hide. They're kind of big models, but depending on, what models you're using, might be a little bit easier to hide. But then if they're killable, your opponent will kill them. They don't have OBSEC, so you're not doing anything incredibly sneaky there. If it's a squad of berserkers, that's the most realistic scenario where you are staging waves of combat basically. Some people might refer to that as like a pressure build or something, where essentially you send in wave after wave after wave and you just move people up in line, right? So there's a queue forming to go melee your enemy, and whoever's next in queue is holding the objective in the meantime, right?
Right.
And it's like a 5 model footprint, so you can hide it. They won't die to incidental shooting because 2 up saved in cover, or sorry, it's a 3 up save in cover is a 2 up. 2 wounds each. I mean, it's not nothing. You Maybe you've invested in a 6-up Feel No Pain by that point. Get a little bit more durable, or 5-ups versus the Mortal Wounds if you're fighting a Psyker army. So there's ways around that that complement a build that you want to play anyway. Some people are probably going to take Armigers or the War Dogs, and they'll probably take Brigands or something. And yeah, those have OBSEC and count as 5, so there's some cool stuff there for back objectives.
And they're free.
Yeah, and they're free in terms of command points, so that's nice. I don't know that they are the answer. Capital T, capital A. I don't know. Ultimately, it just depends if you want the shooting or not. I don't think it's a requirement to have the shooting.
Right. No, I was looking more in towards the carnivore war dogs, which have
Really?
which have the melee options. I've run tests on them. They seem to be all right, but they aren't over the top amazing like I thought they might perform.
Yeah.
But
Can you give me
still, um,
can you give us the breakdown of what a carnivore's output is?
so yes, a carnivore has 5 attacks, 12 wounds, 6 strength, and 7 toughness. So I mean, it's better than a rhino if you're not transporting stuff.
Yeah, it's better than a rhino.
I have done testing where, the rhino does what it needs to do. It drops off the berserkers, and then you're just like, okay, what do I do with this rhino? So I've put it back on, a primary objective to where it sits there, but it usually just gets blown off. And, I usually have just the Havoc launcher and maybe a combi weapon on it, but still it's not as effective once it gets its transport job done as something like a war dog would be.
Right. I mean, I will say you just made a great case for rhinos. That I'm sure many people who've used rhinos have already considered, which is they they are better than I think a lot of people think. Because after they've done transporting, they can roll around, they can charge dudes with you if you're fighting Tau or something, right? And you don't want to eat Overwatch because we don't have any way to shut that down. Um, you just throw that rhino in first if for some reason it's still alive, or
If
you move block with it, or yeah, you hold a rear objective with it. Or you can pick up a different group, right? If you have characters that you want to transport. Um,
the rhino
that's
has proved very successful in screening Overwatch towards me. That way I have the next round to move said rhino and then unleash hell on the opponent.
right, right. I mean, they're also getting all those buffs, so you're gonna get the rhino with exploding sixes, and
Yeah, for some reason.
I mean, I used to play Bloody Rose Sisters, and I had a rhino kill a sanguinary guard before in melee, so you never know. If you can meme it, you can dream it, guys. So yeah, I think there's some interesting stuff. So okay, so let's say as a World Leaders player, a problem you should be thinking about right now in list creation and in playtesting if you do that is how do I hold primary? How do I stick on primary? I don't have an easy answer for you. It could be maybe allying demons. Maybe you want to get some skull cannons or something.
Skull
Those things are
cannons did get the
yeah,
points drop.
they got a points drop. There's 90 points for quite a durable body for the cost.
Shooting,
Um,
and they work very well in melee too.
yeah, they're definitely more of a sort of hybrid platform than just a pure shooting platform. Like they're not going to win any awards at shooting.
No.
Okay. But they are for the points that you're investing compared to a war dog, they're very durable.
They in what I have seen, they are a better investment than a Forge Fiend.
I mean, 100%. I'm gonna please nobody take a fortune, guys. let, let me. I have heard a couple people go like, oh, maybe Forge Fiend see play because world leaders don't have other great shooting options. I need to make something clear coming from my days of playing Magic. Don't try to make a bad unit good unless there's something that's making it good, right? Don't take a unit that's badly costed. Now, and a Forge Fiend is close. It's on the borderline. The fact that War Dogs exist means that the Forge Fiend is dead. Because
Essentially, yes.
strictly better, right? The exception, the asterisk is, what if you're playing Iron Warriors? What if you're playing Word Bearers? Things that are gonna be able to buff that uh Forge Fiend with like a 4-up invuln save from the Master of Possession, or -1 damage from World Eaters, or sorry, not World Eaters, Iron Warriors, via stratagems and stuff. So it's like, yeah, there's some cool play, um, where you could invest to make it a little bit better, but then that hits that issue where how much are you investing to make a unit that's not good
Right.
or mediocre, right? And there's a reason that you're not seeing Forge Fiends, guys. You're not going to go to tournaments and be like, wow, guys, 3 Forge Fiends, so that's the meta, you
So
know?
about that, how do you feel about Helldrakes?
Okay, I'm gonna give a very controversial take. A lot of people are gonna say Helldrakes are dead because of the aircraft thing, right? I think that Helldrakes are, they're not bombers. They don't need to turn one, zip over and bomb something. And most of the time, if they were turn one running up into the enemy's face, they would just auto dead the next turn. Because the rest of your army isn't that fast. We don't have jump packs, especially in World Eaters. We don't have jump
Right.
packs. So there's no point in kamikazing your Helldrake. Right now they're going to come in turn 2. They're going to Baleflame or something. Maybe get a charge off, maybe not. But what it does do is it adds this second wave of pressure in the midfield. Or if you're nervous about the midfield, you can bring them in the back, and they're so fast they can just get up there on turn 3. Now, in World Eaters, what are they going to get? They're going to get 6 attacks on the charge. A cool thing is that they're going to be strength 8 as opposed to strength 7. 6 attacks, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2 in melee is not negligible.
That could
Um,
kill a tank.
could kill a tank. They also get bonuses versus aircraft, right? So if it probably won't be relevant because I don't think anyone else is taking their aircraft anymore.
No, especially
Um,
with the new changes.
yeah. So I think most aircraft is dead. Helldrake's not necessarily dead. I would also fall back to point out there's not a ton of synergy within World Eaters. Like if Iron Warriors and Word Bearers aren't taking Helldrakes, we probably don't need to take them, other than +1 attack and +1 strength, which gets them to strength 8, which is a really cool strength cap to get to, obviously. So there might be something there. So if any of your friends out there are saying, I'm gonna take 2 Helldrakes, don't 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 remove them from your friends list just yet. They might be onto something.
They might. I mean, the meta always shifts.
Yeah. And again, in a world where you're gonna get plasma scepters and stuff like that, it might be nice to have a counter deep strike unit coming in where they drop down, blow something up, you can then drop down, blow something up. The crux of any army in melee in 40k is a trading game usually, where you want to trade up, and we are in a position where our stuff is fairly elite in cost. I hope that we get a points update to sort of compensate for the data slate right now, but 22-point berserkers is, it's not cheap, and 8-bound or what, 40 points.
Yeah, especially with Plague Marines being 19 points and
Yeah,
free war gear.
yeah. Like we need something here.
Yeah.
And I'd like 20-point berserkers. You can't ignore their output, but so we need something ideally. Now, if I won't hem and haw on if we're gonna get something or not. But you gotta trade and trade up ideally, which means unfortunately, if we release as is and have to play, if we fight an army like Space Wolves, it's hard to trade up. Or even if we play an army like Sisters, like for every one of our units, we have to get 2 of theirs,
Right.
just due to the points cost. So it's a tough situation to be in. So I think if you're gonna win as World Eaters, you need to solve the primary issue. Or how do you hold primary? You need to then also solve the trading game issue if you're fighting a melee army. Ways to look at this are, what is our unique advantage? What can we do that other people can't do as well? You already pointed out our secondary game being super strong, right? It's a no-brainer. We're just like, well, I'm just gonna try and kill you. It's almost like you can just focus on trading up the entire game as where your mental energy is,
Right.
and passively get that primary racking up. Whereas other players are like, oh, I got to do this over here. I got to do this over here. Like maybe you take banners one game or something, right? But it's, it doesn't require too much thought. So that's good. But think about what our unique advantages are. And I'm gonna say something really controversial right here. Our blood tithe points and the things we can buy with them are not the unique advantage that people might think they are. A lot of what it's enabling, exploding sixes, +1 attack or +1 AP, whatever it might be, are things that other armies are just getting, right? You look at our chaos friends. Word bearers are just getting free rerolls on the charge. They're getting exploding sixes in
Right.
melee, right? With a warlord trait, you just put someone in the mass wanton massacre, and that unit's getting it for free. Loyalist counterparts, you look at Space Wolves, the successor Space Wolves that people take, they are just always getting +1 to hit and exploding sixes on the charge. Like,
And they have a bunch of fight on death.
well, yeah, they got Wolfen, right? Like
Yeah.
Wolfen are a great example of how the Space Wolf Codex and the data states in there are going to compensate for the play style that you want to have. You're saying I want to play melee. What's the problem with melee? The problem with melee is that you if you multi-charge, you could get CP interrupted and fight phase manipulated, and one of your trading units that you needed to make it is going to die. Things like Wolfen have that built-in fight on death. They also, oh, what if the Wolfen get charged? Then they don't get their bonuses, right? No, they have a rule that says they always count as having charged. You could heroic into them; they always count as having charged. You could use the Blood Surge move to move into them. They will still count as having charged. Like, they just have a rule for that, so they always get double exploding sixes because they're also always in the assault doctrine.
Correct.
And then they have a fight in death. So it's like, oh my gosh, what is this? +1 to hit while they use their thunder hammers. They have storm shields, they're durable. They're T5. Like, it's an amazing melee unit. I'm not just trying to sing the praise of Wolfen here, but they're a very, very potent melee unit, and I don't even want to know what their price is.
They have always out meleeed my world eaters anytime I face them. And it's like I'm supposed to be the superior melee army, but apparently not according to GW.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Wolfen are, oh my gosh, are they 30 points with a Thunderhammer?
Are they?
I think so.
I don't look at them because I hate them.
Yeah, I think they're 30 points with a Thunderhammer. So, uh, compare that to our 8 bound. It's one of these things is often going to be a superior melee choice. So our codex isn't helping us in a ton of ways with our data sheets. We have some cool stuff with Deep Strike for the Exalted, +1 coming in from strat reserves with the regular 8 bound, but there's no real durability for us to even invest in if we wanted to. So for staying power, we're not getting 3d6 charges beyond icon bearers. At most, we're getting +2 to charge, I think, on like Angron. So you got to look at what else we have. So the other things that we have, in my opinion, are we do make some bad units good, like Hellbrutes. We make them kind of interesting, uh, because we're getting +2 move, and you can pregame move them, and
They
there's
are
some
pretty
shooting.
dangerous in melee.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna kill a thing. They'll kill a squad of dudes. So there might be some cool play there. So just like Helldrakes, don't poo-poo your friend just because they say, oh, maybe Hellbrutes. You can poo-poo them for saying maybe Forge Fiends because there's zero Forge Fiend synergy. Again, I want to highlight that. Stop bringing Forge Fiends. But anything that's gonna fight, there might be something there. Also, you look at Blood Slaughters if you want. Look at Contemptors if you want. There might be something. But unique advantages that we have are Invocatus or Invocatus. I don't know how to say his name.
I believe it's
Um,
Invocatus.
Invocatus. So looking at him, +2-inch move. All the Juggerlords are gonna get that aura.
So
Pre-game move.
you can pretty much cast a net with that if you have, because you can bring unlimited Juggerlords apparently, from what GW
Yeah,
said. You can pretty much cast that +2 movement over almost your entire army, depending on how you run it.
right.
So
And
as long as they move with your Juggerlords or Invocatus, like everything will get that +2, which is really good.
it's great. I mean, we don't have advance in charge, right? Like we don't have jump pack units, which is a big blow. Um, so having +2 move, super key. I would expect every build to have at least at least one Juggerlord, if not two.
So,
Um,
with saying that, do you think Karn is going to be on the back burner?
I mean, probably, maybe. He's D3 damage.
He is.
Sorry, not D3 damage, but 3 flat damage.
Yes.
Um, so maybe not. Uh, The thing is that people like Karn, I need to read his lieutenant aura. If it's reroll wounds 6-inch aura, he could be on the menu because we don't really have rerolls.
Besides the
But
Demon Prince, no.
yeah, and that's to hit, right? And like I think Angron, if you're gonna bring Angron, then you're gonna get more rerolls as well, with the command phase. So yeah, and the Demon Prince. So like Karn is a unique offering in the Lieutenant aura, so there might be some cool stuff there. But if his aura, I think it like in previous editions, it was like within an inch of him or some bullshit. Like it's like a tiny aura sometimes.
I've only
Um,
taken him twice.
oh, okay, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what his final things are. I think some people will take him, some people won't.
I just don't feel like he is costed to how he is right now. 140 points seems a little bit high, especially when you compare it to other offerings from other Chaos Space Marines or even Loyalist Space Marines.
Yeah, I agree.
He
I mean,
he lost fight twice. He's got a boatload of attacks, but still, if he gets wiped off the table before he can use those boatload of attacks, you just wasted 140 points.
right. And our fight on death is for core, right?
Yes.
So I will say this without judging people who like Karn, because I love Karn. At what price point would you take a melee beat stick character who's only really going to do that in our army? Because you're all of your things that you're taking are going to be like 8 bound or berserkers. So you have melee. Do you need a melee character as well who's not a force multiplier like a Juggerlord is going to be?
Right.
Karn has let's say Lieutenant Aura is standard Lieutenant Aura, reroll ones to wound. That's good. Maybe that's enough. But what's that worth to you? Because if it's worth, what was it like 65 points or whatever, take a Master of Execution. If you just want a beat stick character who's gonna hurt some people.
Who does around the same as him plus mortal wounds
Yeah. So like,
for
just
half
take
the
that dude.
cost.
Yeah. If you want a beat stick character, take that dude. If for some reason you're seeing a need for Karn for his Lieutenant Aura, go for it.
I think if he was around 110 points, he'd be a little bit more viable because that's what an extra Zerker you can throw on the table, or even an extra 8 bound.
Sure, that's true. Yeah, that's true. There might be something there. And I don't want people to get locked into our roster too much. Definitely look into demons. There's Uraka the Warfiend's interesting, right? Like you're gonna get rerolls out of that.
That
Um,
and you get deny the witch.
yeah, and especially if you grab, yeah, like with Uraka, or if you grab Flesh Hounds, and then
There's
Skull Cannons, there might be some play
there's someone else who denies the witch, and I forget who. It's a demon.
there. Like a character.
I believe so.
Well, I couldn't name them, but I'm glad that they do. Uh, I mean, like the Flesh Hounds do it, right? Karnak, maybe who you're thinking of, the named
Yes,
Flesh Hound.
yes.
Yeah, like there's some cool stuff you could do there. They could, in a pressure build, they could be like the first wave, right? Or they could be running around grabbing objectives for you because they're essentially jetpacks in terms of speed, that we otherwise don't have access to, I think.
I've found
So,
flesh hounds to be very versatile,
yep.
and they are
No,
pretty nasty in combat as well.
and they got discounted. They are insanely cheap for the stats they're bringing right now.
Right.
Definitely, if you have flesh hounds sitting on the shelf, paint them.
Paint up them good boys.
Yep, paint up those dogs. Because yeah, they're gonna have some cool stuff. So I just want to get to another competitive advantage we have, right? So Invocatus is gonna give you that two core units can pregame move. It could be an Alpha Strike, but you don't want to over invest in an Alpha Strike. So the cool thing is it's tactically flexible. So you don't have, if you take 8 bound, you don't have to always have the 8 bound be moving. On a map where you have a really juicy target and you know you can get there because you can pre-measure and you're like, yep, they put their Riptide right in front because they're fools, and I'm gonna go gobble it up. Do it. That's great.
You think they can handle the Riptide?
No, absolutely not. But they'll try.
At least the Riptide couldn't do too much damage back.
Yeah. Well, what is a Riptide? A Riptide is T8 with 12 wounds, 14 wounds,
Something like that.
and then it has a save of a 4-up invuln. Basically, that's what we care about. Not to mention all the drone bullshit. That's what always gets me about Tau. But a unit of 8 bound, in theory, if they're getting +1 attack, those are going to be 49 swings or so, 32-ish hits, 10-ish wounds. 5 of those goes unsaved, and if they're getting +1 damage, that's like 16-ish, somewhere it's like 16-ish wounds. It's not bad
No.
through drones. So yeah, they could kill it, not through Overwatch. I mean, you're probably fucked there, but I don't know. So if you have a juicy target, you can move them. If you don't have a juicy target, you could throw Berserkers up instead, right? Or
Right.
if cultists if they keep core, you could throw them up instead as well. I think they have core right now that I see, but we'll see. So like you could do some strategic positioning with that as well. It doesn't have to be an alpha strike. It could be getting people into midfield or something. That against some armies will be a death sentence and they'll just be a speed bump in order to get to your army, so not good. But against other armies, could be really important to have your guys pre-move up into behind obscuring or something
Right.
in the middle.
And it's a
So
lot better. The way I currently do it with World Eaters right now is you have that pregame stratagem, but it's not as good, and you're still spending a CP on it. So
right, and this is just free tactical flexibility.
free and
Um,
two.
right, it's two things, and yeah, Invocatus can move with them, but you probably don't want to expose him um, too much. So yeah, I think that it should not be written off as an Alpha Strike gimmick. I think that it has a lot of tactical flexibility that, depending on the mission, you'll want to use differently. So that's a huge unique advantage, especially because of how it's written right now. It doesn't really have any restrictions. It's just move core units, their distance, and he's giving a +2 move buff. And out of sequence buffs typically apply. There's advanced rules for that. So his +2 move buff, red is written right now, I believe applies to this pregame move. So it's all coming up in Vacatus in that regard. The other unique advantage that we have is Angron, and I'm gonna say two very controversial things. One, Angron isn't that cool. He
Ooh.
he
Oh
looks
man.
cool. Don't get me wrong, he looks cool, but he's getting what, 13 swings, strength 15, not even strength 16. Very sad there.
Right.
Um, hitting it AP 4 probably. I don't even have it in front of me. D3 +3 damage. So it's like cool. He's hitting like a knight. He's not ignoring invols. He's if he's buffed, he's getting exploding sixes or whatever. So like he'll kill whatever it is. That one thing he'll kill. He can also kill a horde. A unique advantage for Angron is he can handle hordes very, very well. But he's not any better than, well, I mean, he is going to have more swings. He's just about as deadly as the Bloodthirster people have been taking lately, right? Only he doesn't have phase capping. So he's just
Right.
T7, 18 wounds, but out in the wind, you know?
Well, no
Um,
other Primarch has phase capping currently. I mean, Abaddon does, but he doesn't. He's poster boy.
Right. I guess just contrasted with that Bloodthirster, right? Like if you look at
Right.
two Cornite murder machines, someone
And
who's gonna murder just as hard as he.
the buffed Bloodthirster is cheaper than Angron, I believe. Isn't it? It's 350 points.
Well, it'll be more now because they're increasing the cost of the Indomitable Onslaught,
Oh,
I
I
think.
did not remember that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's overall more now, but let's assume he is for the sake of this conversation. It's still probably more worth it than Angron in the regard of their offensive power and stuff like that. But
Eh,
okay, let me take back what I'm saying, and I'm going to redeem myself. Unless you wanted to jump at anything right
no.
there. Okay. So I'm going to redeem myself in the eyes of those who are jumping out of their chairs and screaming at me. What Angron does offer is very fast movement. He offers a no fallback aura, which is huge. If you can get an early engage on direct assault or something like that, that's massive. You can just keep your opponent in their deployment as long as he isn't fighting Wolfen, right? Which will just one round him. As long as he isn't fighting like a dedicated melee threat, your opponent isn't moving past him turn
Right.
one if you get a
So
turn one charge.
in the testing that I've done with, proxying a Bloodthirster as Ingron, I've I've come to find out if you charge the weakest unit that your enemy has, because you have 16-inch movement, which you're gonna reach through the battlefield and then get a charge off. I'd say probably about 85% of the time. But with that, you charge their weakest unit. You don't have to hit them in melee. You can charge and just, ignore it. But with that, you charge them, they can't kill you because they're too weak to do so. So in their turn, they can't fall back. And in turn, you swing there, you've cleared yourself off. So now you just move into the next unit. And
Yeah,
that's the only way I've been able to, really stick to a very defensive Angron while also being heavily aggressive with him.
right. Yep, and I think that's the way is to get like a multi-charge off or charge, kill something, consolidate into something else. Like you want to be able to stick in combat and keep people there so that they can't shoot Angron, right?
Right.
So that's great. There are going to be maps where you can't get a turn one charge because you don't have advance in charge. You have 16-inch move, 24-inch range for between deployment zones. That's math. Also, presumably, your opponent will not deploy against on the line.
Right.
Right? Like
There
let's
are those
assume that.
people.
Who are just
Tau.
like, wait a minute, I don't think that's a
Tau.
good idea. Yeah. Um, so
I'll
you're
let you
not
come to me.
so like a turn two might be more what you should expect.
Right.
But that's assuming he survives, which again, three war dogs, three Helverns with Hunters of Beasts on them, average Angron. He's dead.
Yep.
They're getting +1, assuming he's Titanic, which everything looks like he's going to be so far, which is weird and a major disadvantage to him if he is.
How
But if
so?
he is Titanic, they'll just kill him. Well, you can see him now. The Titanic rule, I think, restricts.
You
Oh,
can
maybe it's not. You can already see him because he's 18 wounds. Never mind. It's a disadvantage because Hunters of Beasts are going to get +1 damage against you.
Oh.
So that's the disadvantage, which allow them to average him in one round of shooting.
From what I've seen in playtesting though, he did not have Titanic keyword. Maybe they've stuck that in at the end, but
Yeah, it could be.
who knows?
We'll see. We'll see. If he's getting you 3 blood tithe points, which is what I had heard from the battle report, that would imply he's Titanic, right?
Right.
So hopefully not, so that you can't just get soloed by Hunters of Beasts. But even if you don't, he's crippled and he isn't moving as far and all that stuff. So okay. So anyway, reasons Angron is good is what I was trying to talk about, and I got distracted by reasons he's bad. So reasons he's good is what we just covered on his charge. He could it's not about him killing stuff unless you have a juicy target like a Riptide or whatever, then yeah, hell yeah, kill that. It's about him keeping your enemy in their deployment zone. That's awesome. Then when he dies, if you can bring him back, I mean, that's a psychological warfare tool. Him being able to deep strike back in is huge. Like, oh my gosh, he's back. I have to deal with him again.
And
Where
again
is he gonna
and
where is he gonna
again.
be placed? Yeah, like they have to constantly be screening out deep strike. Now, is it easy to kill him turn one? Hell yeah. Almost every army is gonna kill him turn one, except maybe orcs, because they'll be far away. But like turn two, a little bit trickier maybe. Turn three, all of a sudden it's becoming difficult because that man you're out of tools, right? Like you've been trading with world eaters, you've been
Right.
trading with 8-pound, you've been trading with berserkers. If all you have left is one squad of retributors or one plasma scepter squad, like it's gonna be hard now. When he comes back, he only has 8 wins. So any melee thing is gonna be able to kill him. But it's gonna the toll is gonna add up. And I could see a game where you get to turn 4 and the enemy's just like, fuck, I don't know.
Yep.
I can do
Yep.
this anymore,
He
if
just
you'd
keeps
played
coming
smart.
back.
Yeah, he just keeps coming back. And turn one, it doesn't take much to kill him. All your other stuff should be behind obscuring anyway if you've moved cleverly. So I I cannot wave my hand and say it'll take their whole army to kill him. It won't. It'll take like 4 units at most to kill him.
Yeah.
And they'll have nothing better to do other than kill him anyway. But by turn 3, turn 4, like yeah, the opponent might have to really commit to trying to kill him, and then your 3 or 4 berserker squads or 8 bound that are left by that point in the game are going to be able to run over the battlefield, and that has a really cool unique play to it that's tactically advantageous. Now, a really big downside I discovered, I was chatting with Ryan, and at first I was like, this could be something, Ryan, bring that boy back, do something cool. But then he pointed out that Angron's abilities are all command phase oriented.
Right.
So the no fall back aura, which would be oh dude, if you could deep strike a no fall back aura, amazing. Assuming you get the charge off. But like that's such a huge threat. But his no fall back aura, his chapter master, it's all command phase. So you don't get any benefit.
Yeah.
That turn. So if it was movement or something, or if he could somehow still benefit from that aura, oh my gosh, that'd be incredible.
I guess we'll have to see how it plays out.
That's what it boils down to. Is we got to see how it plays out. But my message to World Eaters players is look at what our unique advantages are. Not cool, flashy things like Blood Tithe. Blood Tithe is cool. The modularity of it's unique, but what you're getting isn't like, oh, kill the world now that I have exploding sixes. It's like, dude, no, everyone else has exploding sixes too.
Join
You
the
know?
club.
But yeah, Bloody Rose, Space Wolves, like anyone is going to get exploding sixes if they want it. But look at what we have. People are going to talk about Lords of Wars like Lord of Skulls and Brass Scorpion. Brass Scorpion, I fucking love. If you play Brass Scorpion, you're my best friend in the world. But
Oh, thank you.
yeah, no, you're my best friend. But what are World Eaters doing to it that make it more viable than being in Iron Warriors or Word Bearers? Right.
Not much.
Right. So I don't know. Think about that stuff, I guess, is my
We only have one stratagem that can do anything with demon ninjas, and it's not as good as I would say even generic Chaos Space Marines where they have Demon Forge or,
right.
Infernal Engine.
Or -1 damage. I mean,
Yeah.
we have right. It's fight it bracket, right?
Yeah.
And that's only in the Army of Renown.
And you
So
don't really want that really for Lord of Skulls either because his attacks go up as his wounds
yeah,
go down.
yeah.
So now
His
you're
weapon
just
skill, yeah, his weapon skill gets worse. So I think it's kind of just a wash. But yeah, it's I don't know. People can experiment. Just please stop using Forge Fiends.
the one lesson we've learned today: don't use Forge Fiends.
Don't use Forge Fiends. Also, I want to give a shout out. Like, there was discussion on the Discord about like Chaos Spawn and stuff like that, and I think we already covered it. But your opponent's only going to kill them if it's good for them to kill them.
Right.
Please, another thing, please do not make it easy for your stuff to die. That's not. Like, you don't need that for your secondaries. You're gonna score them. Don't make it easier to kill you than it has to be.
You want to die, but at the same time, you don't need to die.
Yeah, I think if you were to if you were to play this army and not want to die, right? If you were to play this army and just be like, I want to protect my stuff by being very clever in the movement phase and play as defensively and cleverly as possible, you would probably still get 15 on your secondaries.
Yeah, probably.
You're how many games of 40k do you guys play where you have a bunch of models at the end? Like the opponent is actively trying to kill you. Don't make it easy for them. It's just convenient when they do because you also get points. Yeah. So those are that's my rant.
So, with that, how do you feel about losing so many units in the Chaos Space Marines Codex?
Sad.
Really
There are
salty.
units. I'm not super salty. Like I think we have play without them. The biggest things that jump out at me are Warp Talons and Raptors, like those kind of things. I don't care about cultists. We're
No.
we're getting replacement possessed, and then obviously we get no psychers, so we're not getting psychic things. Disco Lord would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, I really heavily invested in either Disco Lord or the Dark Apostle, so that's kind of a hit to me.
Dark Apostle would have been great if we. So I think Dark Apostle and maybe something with a jetpack are the only models that I would have probably taken from the CSM Codex.
Not obliterators.
No.
No.
Or no, because they follow the same. They might have been good. Let me offer that. Maybe they were a good answer, but I think they follow the same answer that I was giving about other things. If if people who can make them good aren't taking them now, why would we take them?
True.
Like, you know, they can get exploding sixes to shoot in Iron Warriors anytime they want, or in the first round of the game in any CSM army with plus rerolls and +1 to hit and all this bullshit. So it's like, I don't know.
Maybe we might actually see mutilators come back.
Could be. I wonder what happened with that. They just Games Workshop gave up. They said nah.
They kind of forgot about them. They were like, ugh.
Yeah, they just decided that kit sucks and it wasn't selling. So
it was probably the worst sculpt I've seen.
yeah. So I'll say this about us. I'm excited that we have so few options because it is going to make it so that people who are successful are being very creative and they're probably have a very, very good movement phase. Like it means when you win with World Eaters, you're not winning because you're playing World Eaters. You're winning because you're skilled at the game.
Right.
Um,
And that kind of goes into my next point about, how do you feel about having a very limited selection of relics and warlord traits and stratagems and such?
it's hard. I mean, in the future, I think many armies will have that kind of restriction looking at 10th.
Right.
Um, but for now, it's a bummer. At the same time, it doesn't distract us. It allows you to focus on using your command points for fight on death and using it
Right.
for plus damage and 3d6 charge, which we're gonna need every single round.
Right.
So I
I've
don't know what kind of relic we would need to make it worth it.
I feel like they could have added a little bit more depth, but coming from Eldar, where there is a huge amount of diversity all over, I feel like the bloat being somewhat limited is a lot better and easier for newer people to get started in the game.
100%. I
Other
hope
than that, I
not.
feel like I'm missing some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have a good, like we have the relic that gives auto wounding on sixes to hit, and that's a great one. I don't need a more killy character with the axe. I don't need
You're
uh,
already going to kill
yeah,
anything that you touch, most likely, but why do we need
yeah,
it to go further?
right. Like I don't need it. Maybe you give it to a Juggerlord or something.
It's like beating a
To
dead horse. It's already dead. Just leave it alone.
yeah, it's already dead. If we had some kind of relic that was like, anyway, I'm not going to speculate for what could have been. And the warlord traits right now, it's just Invocatus outclasses everyone else's
By
depending
far.
on. Yeah, I mean, if Angron keeps this anti-obsec thing again, that could be a real big coup by turn 3 or something. But we'll have to see what he goes to print with.
Right.
But I think those take the cake by and large as well. Stratagems being weak is really what has me down the most. Sorry, not weak. We have a good set, but I would have liked mm, more options. I would have liked some key mechanics to like. We have no durability at all,
Right.
and so a durability stratagem would have been really cool. A standard one probably wouldn't have worked, but there's precedent for some wild stuff out there. Um,
Like transhuman.
like transhuman. Would have been great. It might have been a trick though. So like this is the thing that a lot of people fall into where they're like, "Oh, I'll use my one defensive strat." And it's like, "Okay, but math probably still says that unit's going to die."
Right.
But it would have been nice to still have in our pocket. Yeah. I don't know. It's a bummer, but it's what we got, so I'm just going to work with it. The cool thing is it's kind of we only go up from here.
You're right. We have our baseline.
Yeah, we got our baseline. We're gonna come out. We're probably gonna not have a great win ratio after the first like week. It might be good in the first week because everyone's alpha charging with the Invocatus, but if we don't, then GW will be able to come in and massage our points. And there's not many places to buff us other than points, unless they want to change core rules about us. So if we get good points changes and we can start making equal trading games with sisters and Marines in terms of how many units we have to trade on the field, and then we're rezzing Angron every single turn, like there's some spicy stuff there that could easily see a good player winning uh, some hard matchups.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Would you recommend this army to people getting into the game with the simplicity?
If simplicity is important, yes.
Okay.
If having a good experience is important, no.
Fair enough.
If you if you want to have if you want to have a good taste for all the phases of the game, this is the
No.
worst army you can play. I would recommend you go pick up salamanders, right, or something like that, or
Yeah.
ultramarines, or if you want to be tough, which often new players don't like their stuff dying, right? The concept
Right.
of it's okay to trade is hard to learn in this game for a new player. So usually it's like, yeah, go play Dark Angels instead. You're gonna field like 80 Terminators with the current points, and
Right.
nothing will ever die. Um, so like, go do that. Don't play World Eaters. Play World Eaters if you get it, right? If you're coming from like a card game, like if you're used to playing Magic the Gathering and you play Black Red Sacrifice or a Pox decks or something. Only a couple of people are going to get those references. But if you're like Rakdos in mindset, yeah, come play World Eaters. We come on over. You're going to get the concept. But
Monkey brain.
Monkey Brain, you're going to get it. You're going to be like, stuff dying, stonks go up.
Unga bunga all the way.
Yeah, like I get it. I want to kill you. And you'll then learn to be very, very competent at movement and charge phase, which
Right.
are, I would argue, the two most skill intensive portions of the game.
Right. Definitely.
If you're an ambitious player who can understand who wants a challenge, yeah, play World Eaters as a new player.
Okay. And cool. Are there any other closing thoughts that you might have?
Stop playing Forge Fiends.
Stop playing Forge Fiends.
I'm sure that'll bite me in the ass. I'm sure Forge Fiends will become the new meta pick for World Eaters, but
I can't wait to edit this and see how many times you say stop using Forge Fiends.
I'll say it 10 times right now.
Oh no.
No,
say it
kidding.
10 times fast.
It's yeah, and just I think my closing statement really is look at what makes us unique, look at what enables our gameplay in a way that will give you success. Don't look for, oh, Chaos Spawn are easy to kill. Look at Chaos Spawn present my opponent a difficult choice to make, and they can be easy to hide behind obscuring and X and Y.
Right.
When you talk about allies, think about what are demons bringing you? Oh, durability in backfield. Do we really need shooting? Think about that, honestly.
Right.
Like, you may not. So I think don't get obsessed with the concept of an alpha strike. Don't get obsessed with certain gimmicks. Look to what our unique strengths are. How can you use those strengths to differentiate our army and our play style from others? Because if you can't do that, then you might as well just play the others, right? So look at our unique offerings, try and make something of that. But if those unique offerings just are worse versions of something else, take it from a different angle and try and figure something out.
Yep. No, I completely agree with that, and well said.
Have fun, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us and telling us about all the hatred you have against Forge Fiends.
I love the model. I own them. I
have
they
3
just
of them
don't-
just sitting on my shelf that will not see any action.
yeah, just instead take any other demon engine. Take
Yep.
take Contemptors. There's probably play there.
Can I proxy these as war dogs even though they're not as tall?
Yeah, probably. Stand them upright on their 2 highlights.
Yeah.
It'd look cool. They'd be the swollest war dogs ever. They'll
Jesus
skip leg
Christ.
day. But
You
they'll be
can
a
rotate
great
their
upper
guns
body.
that way.
There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to the World Eaters release in a few weeks.
Yeah, very excited. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.